major storm is about to slam the United States, and it could be the first time in weeks that we've seen heavy snow and severe weather threats tied to the same storm. It all starts in the western United States, where an atmospheric river event will lead to over 8 feet of snow in some locations over the next week. As this storm system moves to the east, it will tap into a sharp temperature contrast setting up across the central United States. Arctic air will mix with warm and moist air, creating the perfect environment for this storm to intensify as it heads into the plains and Mississippi Valley. By Saturday, this storm could pose a significant threat of severe weather across the southern United States. Depending on how fast this storm strengthens, there could be a potential of widespread strong to severe weather, including the chance of tornadoes. This is a classic coast-to-coast system with two very different impacts, and how this storm develops could shatter your heart on Valentine's Day. So, in today's forecast, I'm going to break down exactly what you need to know about this upcoming storm that will impact the United States. Now, we have a lot to talk about in today's forecast, and I want to begin with our general weather pattern that'll be impacting the country over the next 7 days. And this is what it looks like in our jet stream currently. We have a large, low-pressure system that is currently located near the Great Lakes. This is actually going to dump a lot of snow today across the Northeast, especially across Maine, New Hampshire, and as well as Vermont. On the other hand, we have another low-pressure system that is developing just off the coast of California. This is going to dump a lot of mountainous snow for areas like California, Nevada, Utah, and even back over towards Colorado. And these are states that desperately need snowfall ahead of spring and summer, as many of these locations have hardly seen any snow so far this winter. And then back over in the southern plains, we have a very large ridge that has developed and that has kept things very warm for the time being. Now, as we head into late Wednesday and Thursday, this large storm system is going to make its way over towards the Rockies, and we are expecting that this storm will bring the risk of severe weather, and as well as even some snowfall by the later half of this week and also into the weekend. So, by Friday and Saturday, the storm is going to cross over the Rockies and into the southern plains. It will be a very intense storm system that'll bring a risk of some severe weather Saturday and Sunday from Texas and Oklahoma back into Alabama and Georgia, with damaging winds and even a few tornadoes being a possibility throughout Valentine's weekend. And then eventually by Sunday into Monday, that storm system will make its way into the southeast and will continue to bring rain and even some snowfall in parts of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. And even behind this storm system, we will likely see another large storm as we go into next week across the west coast. And from there, that could bring some big impacts to areas in the northern plains and the Midwest. And I want to talk about our temperature trends over the next 7 days, as we are dealing with one of the warmest stretches of weather we've seen so far this winter. Areas like Kansas City were near 72 degrees yesterday. That is warmer than most of Florida. We are talking about an unbelievable heat wave across the Great Plains. Now, that is coming to an end. We did have a cold front that moved across areas like Kansas and Missouri this morning. Temperatures are still running well above average. Any of those numbers that you see on your map here are the difference from average. So areas like Kansas City, even though there's a cold front that came through, you guys are still about 15 degrees above average today. Even back into the southeast, it is very warm for this time of the year. By Wednesday and Thursday, cold air will become more dominant. If you're over in the Midwest and across the Northeast, most of these areas will only be about 5 to 10 degrees below average. So, nothing too insane for this time of the year. By Thursday and Friday, warm air will continue to build all across the Great Plains, while very cold temperatures will continue across the Northeast. And then by Saturday and Sunday, we'll be watching for a risk of severe weather if you're back across the southern plains and the southeast, with damaging winds and tornadoes being a possibility, with abnormally warm weather continuing throughout Valentine's weekend. And if winter weather is your Valentine this year, you're not going to really be experiencing much of that to begin next week, because we are likely going to see even more record-breaking heat, especially across the northern plains and the Midwest, where some areas could be as much as 40 degrees above average. The GFS model, even by Tuesday of next week, is showing an unbelievable heat wave, 45 degrees above average. We're talking 70s in some of these areas as far north as Minnesota. That would be absolutely crazy. So, we'll definitely be monitoring this very closely. Granted, this is still about 7 days from now, so things could change, but trends are continuing to look like it is going to be very warm as we go into next week across the northern tier of the country. And over the next 7 days, our temperatures are going to be remarkably warm across most of the country. Even today, we're dealing with areas like Little Rock, Arkansas in the mid-70s, back up towards Chicago in the upper 30s and low 40s. Cold air will arrive across the Northeast and also back through the Great Lakes as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, most areas right around or just below normal. But where things get really crazy is as we go into the weekend and also next week, it'll be very warm along the Gulf Coast, even up into Minnesota. Saturday afternoon, it could be in the mid to upper 50s and low 60s back over in Iowa and Minnesota. That's not the craziest part because by Monday and Tuesday of next week, there is a possibility we could go well into the 60s across the northern plains and the Midwest. Tuesday right now looks to be the warmest day that we've seen in a long time for many of these areas. There could be some locations in southwest Minnesota reaching the 70s. And with that upcoming storm system next week, there is even a possibility that if we were to see temperatures this warm, severe weather would not be impossible up into Nebraska and Iowa. So, we need to monitor this very closely. Again, there could be some changes to the forecast. That's not impossible, especially with this being about 7 days from now, but this would be no short of being historic. Now, let's talk more about these upcoming storm systems that'll be impacting the United States. And I want to begin with what is happening today across the Northeast. Right now, we have a large low-pressure system that has developed just to the north of Michigan. This right here is an Alberta clipper. These have been pretty common throughout the winter, and this one's going to dump plenty of snowfall later this afternoon into the evening. It will begin in New York later today, and then eventually spread across most of New England by tonight. We're expecting moderate to heavy snowfall all evening and into the overnight hours, and we are expecting snowfall rates to be right around 1 inch per hour, maybe 1.5 inches in some of the more heavy bands of snowfall by Wednesday morning. Most of the heavy snowfall will be moving offshore. Light snowfall will continue from Pennsylvania into northern Maine during the daytime on Wednesday and even into early Thursday. Now, while that's happening, we have a very large storm that is impacting the west coast over in California and even back into Nevada, where we're mostly talking about rain from San Francisco back into San Diego. However, we are going to be watching for a lot of snowfall. This is basically going to be a winter storm for those west and along the Rockies. This is great news for skiers because we are expecting a ton of snow over the next week or so as a powerful atmospheric river will continue to dump heavy snow throughout Wednesday, Thursday, and even into next week as we start to see some more storm systems. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so important? Well, this right here is a large area of moisture. There's a lot of snow, a lot of rain that'll be impacting areas from Colorado back into California. But the excess amount of moisture is eventually going to move over Arizona and New Mexico late Thursday and into early Friday. It might not look like a whole lot here as we go into Friday afternoon and evening, but we will have some scattered showers and even some snow as far south as eastern Arizona. By late Friday and early Saturday, that is when we're expecting an intense storm system to develop across the southern plains. This will be mainly developing over Oklahoma, Texas, and then back over into the Mississippi Valley. And to make the storm system a little bit easier to see, I'm going to go over to our composite reflectivity. So, this is what it'll look like on Saturday morning. A large blob of moderate to heavy rainfall will be going anywhere from Tennessee back into Texas. By the afternoon hours is when we're expecting instability to grow and also a lot of moisture to come out of the Gulf. And this is going to allow for a pretty primed environment, I think, on Saturday for at least some scattered, maybe even numerous severe storms stretching from the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Tulsa back over towards Memphis, where damaging winds and tornadoes may be a possibility, especially since we should have a good amount of wind shear in this general vicinity. By Saturday evening, a lot of storm activity will be ongoing from Missouri back into Louisiana. Damaging winds and a tornado risk should continue. And then, as we go into the overnight hours into Sunday morning, this storm will eventually move into the southeast, where severe weather may continue on Sunday in Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. Keep in mind, a lot of these areas ended up seeing ice and snow just over the last 2 weeks. We're now transitioning into a severe weather threat. This is a storm system that should happen a little bit more frequently during the winter timeframe, but we've really not had a whole lot of severe weather down here. So, this might be the first legitimate threat of significant severe weather across the southern plains and the southeast for this winter. One thing we need to watch for is any chance of wintry precipitation across the mid-Atlantic and the northeast as we head into Sunday and early Monday. The latest GFS model is showing very minimal wintry precipitation as of right now in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. There could be a little bit of freezing rain or drizzle, maybe a little bit of snowfall on the northern side of the storm system, but for now, it does not appear likely we're going to see a whole lot of wintry precipitation, if any. Now, as we go into next week, this is where things start to get a lot more uncertain, but I do think the West Coast and all across the higher elevations west of the Rockies are going to be getting hammered with lots of rain and snow. This is all a part of a growing risk of an atmospheric river event, which means that all that energy and moisture should surge over the Rockies and create some big storms as we head into next week across the United States. Right now, the European model and the GFS model are indicating a possibility of some sort of storm system in the northern tier of the country and back into the Midwest. It's a little too uncertain, though, for details as of right now, but I do think we're at least going to see 2, maybe even 3 large storms sometime between February 16th all the way towards February 25th, so about a 10-day period where at least 2 or 3 storms will be on the table, and those should be much larger than the stuff that we've been dealing with recently. And if you live anywhere in this highlighted region, I would definitely be staying weather aware this weekend for severe weather. This is where I do think the greatest risk of severe storms will exist, with damaging winds, maybe a few tornadoes being on the table. This will begin on Valentine's Day and head all the way into Sunday evening. So, something to watch for if you're down here in the southeast or in the southern plains. And in terms of total snowfall accumulation over the next few days, we are anticipating a widespread 3 to 6 inches of snow anywhere from Buffalo, New York, back over towards Boston and into northern Maine. There will be some locations, especially in eastern Maine, that pick up closer to 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. This is going to go on top of the upwards of a foot of snow that is still on the ground all across New England. So, good news if you like the snowfall. It's bad news if you want to shovel more snow, because that's going to be on your bucket list here for the rest of this week. And then back along the West Coast, this is where we're talking about an unbelievable amount of snowfall over the next week or so. This is between now and February 20th. Anywhere in the pink and white and gray, those are all areas that we're expecting feet of snowfall. This right here in the Sierra Nevada is where we're expecting an unbelievable amount of snow. Upwards of 100 to 150 inches of snow will be on the table all across the Sierra Nevada as we go into the rest of this week and also next week. This is all great news for skiers, but even better news for those areas that desperately need water, as we are at record low amount of snowfall in areas like Colorado and Utah this winter. But this will definitely help that problem over the next week or two. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast on Michael Carter Weather. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're going to be continuing to post a lot of frequent updates. There might even be a live stream this weekend for severe weather on Saturday, perhaps even Sunday. So, click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest updates, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.